Hello everyone and welcome to the video lecture series of mobile application development. Students, in previous lecture we have seen that how can we implement the audio players or I can say the video player in Android application. Now, it's task to learn about the background services in Android. Welcome students, this is your instructor Janice Shah. So let's begin to understand that what do we mean by background services. Students, many of the time if you have an experience that your phone is there, okay, and you will get the notification about the alarm, okay, still alarm application is not in active state, still you get the alarm over there, that is known as the broadcast receiver. Start. So students, many of the time you have experienced that some downloading process is going on in your smartphone devices in the background, right, and still you can easily access your phone. Same like that, when you click on the Ghana application and your song is playing, now you just click on the home button and still song is playing in the background of an application. How it is happening? It is just because it is happening with the help of the background services. So the Android services is a component that is used to perform the operations on background, such like playing music, handle network transaction, interacting content providers, or I can say any other downloading process or anything. Same like that students, see the background services has no any UI, that means that does not contain any UI component. So the Android services can be defined into three different parts. Number one is the foreground services, background services, and the bound services. So the service that runs in a background independently if the application is destroyed. That means even if your application is not working, still in the background your services are still going on. Moreover, the service can be bounded by the component to perform the interactivity or inter-process communication. That means sometimes it might be possible that the inter-process communication is occurred just because of the services. So services is very much useful component to learn in Android. See students, the foreground services. The very first type of the services is foreground services. Foreground services that notify the user about its ongoing operations are termed as foreground services. That means user can interact with the services by notification provided about the ongoing task. That means suppose in your application you get any you can say any message in the WhatsApp, okay, and you will get the notification for that. You can easily interact with that services, right? So that is known as foreground services. See, downloading a file, user can keep the record of the process in the downloading and also pause and resume the process. See, if you try to download something from the internet, you can easily see on the top bar of your smartphone devices that okay, the file is downloading currently going on. But if you want to pause it, if you want to start it, you can easily do that. So that is known as the example of the foreground services. Now, when we talk about the background services, so background services do not require any user interaction. That means when you try to play a song, see this service do not notify user about the ongoing background task. The process is like, wait a minute, sorry. The process is like scheduling the syncing of data or storing the data fall under these services. See, many of the time if you know, thus our system is automatically get updated. That means when you are trying to connect it with the Wi-Fi, the new updates is automatically get downloaded in your smartphone. This is a background services. You don't know about it, but still it is going on. Now, the next about the bound services. This type of Android services allow the component of the application like activity to bound themselves with that. That means they will bind one component with another. Like bound services perform the task as long as any application component is bound on it. More than one component is allowed to bound themselves with a service at a time. That means one component is bounded with the services. Once the services is completed, the bound components get released. So in order to bind any application component with service, we need to use a method which is known as bind services method. Now, next topic is all about the life cycle of the services. See students, the services can be started in the two different ways. One is a bounded way and another is an unbounded way. So students, whenever you try to bound the service in an unbounded way, by following this path, a service will initiate when the application component calls start service method. So whenever the application component call a start service method, the unbounded services is started. On initiation of the service, it can run continuously in the background even if the component is destroyed. See what is happening right now. In the bounded services, the service is bounded with one another component. Once the component get destroyed, the service get destroyed. But here in the unbounded services, by calling the onStart method, you can, or I can say the onStart service method, you can directly call a services. Now even if the component get destroyed, service is still going on. So which was responsible to start the service? The two options are available to stop the execution of the service, by calling the stop service method or by calling stop self method. Now the next is a part of a bounded services. So next is a bounded services, that means it can be treated as a server in client server interface. That means once your server get completed, stop responding to you, you can easily get stop responding to the another services. That means by following this path, students, Android application component can send requests to the services and can fetch the results. A service is termed as a bounded when application component bind itself by the services by calling a bind service method. See, in the previous example, or I can say the started service method, we need to call a method start service. And here we need to bind with the component by calling a method bind services method. To stop the execution to the service, we just need to call a method which is known as unbind services. Okay. Now let's see about the service lifecycle. See, there are two different ways to implement the service in your smartphone devices, or we can say in Android. The number one way is to call the start service method, and another way is to call the bind service. These both are totally different life cycles. Okay, but in exams you need to define both of them. So very first method is by calling start service method, where we need to call on create activity. On create method is called, same like that the on create method is called over here. Then another method is known as the on command. So on command method is called and service is running. Now the service is stopped by the client itself, or the service itself stopped by calling the stop service method or stop self service method. On destroy method is called and service is get shut down. This is the flow of the service life cycle whenever you try to implement a service by calling a method start service. But now what happens if you try to bound any component over there? So for that you just need to call a method which is known as bind services. It starts on the on create method, then it calls on bind method. Now clients are bounded to the services. Now all clients unbind by calling unbind services. That means service is currently opening. Now clients are bounded to that particular services. Now one client do not want to use that service, then it will call unbind method. So unbind service method is called and you can easily release from the resources. Now unbind method, each and every client get destroyed, or I can say release the resources, and the on destroy method is called. Now service get destroyed, and the last one is service get shut down. So remember students, these two ways are different life cycles for the services. One is using start service method, second one is using bind service method. Now next, let me just explain each and every step. So very first is on start command. So the system calls this method when another component such as an activity requests the services be started by calling start service. If some activity, we define a method start service, then on start command method is called. If we implement this method, it is your responsibility to stop this. See, here we started the services, so it is our responsibility to stop this by calling on stop, or I can say stop service method or stop self method. Next is on bind. See, the system calls this method when another component want to bind with the services by calling bind services. Okay, you can directly implement this method and provide an interface that client can use to communicate with the services. You must always need to implement the method, but if you want to allow binding, then you should return null over there. Next, we can say unbind and rebind. So students, unbind method is called when all clients have disconnected from the particular interface published by the services. See, the unbind is called when each and every client have disconnected. Okay. Then rebind, that means when a new client wants to connect it to the services and after it previously notified that all disconnected in the unbind. That means after unbinding, if any other client want to bind it again, then the on rebind method is called. Next, on create and on destroy. So the system calls this method when the service is first created using on start command or on bind method. Now on destroy method, this system call is method when the service is no longer used and it is being destroyed. Your service should implement this cleanup or any resources such as thread, register, listeners or receivers, etc. Now it's time to learn about the example of services. So students, here in this today's example, we are going to run music in a background. See, if we have tried before in audio player, if you click on a home button, your song will stop. It is not playing in the background. But now we are going to implement the background services. So if we click on the home button, still our song is playing in the background. Fine. So this is our main aim to use of the services. As well as in this program, we are going to learn about the service lifecycle methods as a on start and on stop service method. See, here we have two different methods to implement the services, but I am going to implement the service by calling start service method, not bind service method. Okay. So very first, I just took a layout over here where the text view is there and button is there. In the text view, I have written the service example and I have two different buttons, one to start the services, another to stop the services. One to start the services and another to stop the services. So students, here I took a text view and one button is there. Next, this is my main activity.java file, or I can say my service.java file. See, to make a service, to use of the services, we need to extend the service class in another class. So here I just made a class which is known as public class my services extends service. So here I need to implement the audio player, that's why I need to take object of media player. Students, here we have extended a services class, that's why we need to implement some methods over here. One is on bind method, second one is on start command. See, I recently told you that I am going to call a service by calling on start method or start service method. That's why I do not need to write anything in on bind. I just need to write my code inside my on start command method. So here first I need to create the object of the media player. So player is equal to media player.create and set default alarm here and player.set looping. That means as there is alarm, I just start it again and again. So by calling the set looping true, you can directly listen the song in repeated mode. Now player.start, this method is used to start a music player, and here like this students, do not remember to return start underscore sticky. This is a particular variable that returns by the on start command method. Now this method is used to start the services, and this is all about the destroy services. So whenever you click on the stop button, we will call the destroy services. That's why the super.onDestroy player.stop, and here service get destroyed. So this is just a service class. Now we need to implement the service class inside our main activity.java class file. So here we have take the two different buttons. One is for the start and second one is for the stop. See, I just bounded my start button with Java files, and on click event of that, I just need to call a method which is known as start service method. Start service method new intent get base context comma my service.class. So this is a reference of my service.java class. Same like that, on the stop button we just need to call a method which is known as stop service new intent my service.class, which is a reference of my service.java class. Fine. This is how students we can easily implement service in the background in Android. Now let me show you a basic practical code for that. So students, let me first just show you the Android manifest.xml file. See, here I didn't added any code, so this my code is as it is, but no, it is not as it is. See, I have added a code which is known as service Android colon name is equal to my service. So to register a service inside your manifest file, you need to write like this. See, this is service Android colon name dot my service. My service is nothing but it is my class name. Here it is, my class name is a my service. Fine. So first you just need to register your service name over here. Okay, as we are going to register activity in the application, we also need to register services as well. Now the next part is, let me just show you for the activity underscore main.xml file. This is my activity underscore main.xml file where I took inside a relative layout. I just take a text view. On the below of that, I just take a button to start the service, another button to stop the service. Button ID is start button. Here button ID is, or I can say, stop button. Fine. This is a relative layout. You can see the code and implement by it yourself as well. In your way, you can take any other layout. Fine. Now next, let me just show the my services class. So public class my services extend service. Now on the creating the media player object, iBinder and the onStart method is already implemented by me because we are going to extend the service class. That's why they are asking to implement or override these both methods. Now inside that, I just took a player, media player, creating the object of the media player class. Set looping, make it true, start the player and toast a message that services are already started. Do not forget to return start underscore sticky variable in onStart command method. Now on the very next step, we just need to call onDestroy method. So onDestroy method is called, we just need to write down like player.stop method. So service get destroyed over here. Fine. Now what about the main activity Java file? So inside the main activity Java file, I just take a message over that like Android, and just took it randomly. Now whenever you try to create, see, onCreate method is called, see, the log.onCreate method is called. So I have just added, so you will get the idea that onCreate method is called once you get start the services. So in the start button, I just bind it with the start and stop button with the XML file. Then on click event, I just need to write like start service. I already told you that I am going to start a service by using the start service method, not the start, or I can say bind service method. Okay, so I am just choosing the single path that is about the start service method to create the services. So start service method is called new intent get context base comma my service dot class, and on the stop button I need to call stop service new intent get context base my service dot class file. This is all about the services. Now let me just run the code and show the output that how it looks like.
Here it is. Now let me just run the particular code. Even in the logcat, see, let me just show something. Here inside the logcat, onCreate method is called. Okay. Now, and this is my phone. Where is it? See, when I click on the start button, students, see, this is start. So the alarm will start. When I click on the stop, alarm is service destroyed. Once again click on the start, service started, and this stop, see, service destroyed. So this is how, students, you can check the services. My service, here I have already called the onCreate method is called. Fine. So this is all about the service, where the background service we can see. Whenever we click on the start button, once again let me just show you, start, the alarm is currently working. Although we are out from the app, still alarm is working. Now if I want to stop it, let me just find out the app. So here it is, app. Now let me just click on the stop button. Now it's getting stopped. Fine. So this is all about the service example, students.
So students, we have seen that how can we implement the background services in Android. If you haven't done this in lecture, then please feel free to ask me. Thank you so much.